All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight is February 7th, 2019. Thank you all for coming. This is the Hingham Historic Districts Commission. And before we get started on the applications, let's just go through some quick checks to make sure that there are no conflicts for anybody who's recused himself for any of the applications for tonight. No? Nope. Good? Okay. And given that we have all new applications tonight, and we've got 3 voting members and we've got 2 alternates here, Justin and Ben, would you agree to be the 4th and 5th voting members tonight?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So we have a full quorum and 5 voting members in total. So let's start out with the 223 North Street. I know this is Roger Hoyt's doing the work on this, correct?
Yes.
And it's listed as North Street Realty Trust. They would like to do some modifications to the rear of the building. So would you like to come up here and, or I know you've got some materials here on the easel. Would you like to stand up and do it that way, or whatever? Whatever.
Come to the table first and then we stand up. I know that if I stand up here,
Yeah.
I don't have a mic, so.
No, you can bring the mic over.
Then, or, yeah. Then
Okay.
Jessica.
So whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Sit on a chair.
This is Marion Brissell, who's the owner
Okay.
of the property.
Nice to be here.
And this is Jessica Soprizio, who works with me and then prepared all of these documents, including the perspective rendering, which I thought was very helpful for, at least for me, to see how this all was going to look from North Street as you're coming from west to east. What we'd like to do here, Marion's very happy to have purchased this beautiful old house, as I'm sure you know, 1743. And it's in not great condition inside. But our intention is to basically leave the main body of the colonial intact. The North Street elevation, the existing is at the bottom, and our proposal is at the top. Our intention is to repair and fix all of the existing windows in the house. They have a combination storm and screen sash unit on the outside. They are single glazed. Some of them are not in great shape, but it would be our intention to try to repair all of the windows that are on the south, east, and west elevations of the house. There are shutters in the basement. They're not in very good shape either, but I think Marion would very much like to put shutters back on the house. But again, this would be a question for discussion with the board. But I think proportionally it certainly helps the overall look of that from our standpoint. But I'd like to get your view on that subject. If you're going towards downtown from the west, actually that's the east side. Let's see where. So again, on the bottom is the existing building, and basically leaving the window structure as it is on the gable end, facing west. We're proposing to raise the roof on the rear L approximately 3 feet. There are 2 bedrooms on that second floor above the kitchen at the moment, but it's a step down, and the ceiling height in that kitchen is much lower, And the ceiling height also on the second floor is substantially under what it might be. So, and that's the area we're talking about putting in a master bedroom above the kitchen. And the existing screen porch, which is, again, directly north of the main house, because we want to try to add 4 feet to the width of the kitchen unit to make it work for 21st century kitchen. We want to maintain the exact look of the porch, but also move it slightly west. So the face of the new location of the porch will be approximately 7 feet back from the west face of the main house, as opposed to 11 feet where it is now. And then we have a dormer up on the 3rd floor, which is set back 7 feet from the face, again, of the gable end. There are 7 8x8 red oak rafters in that attic, and we're planning to retain 5 of those 7. So we're taking out 2 of the main rafters in order to create a 3rd floor bedrooms. Right now there are 6 bedrooms on the 2nd floor, but there's no master really, and there's no and there's a small bathroom, so we're putting in 1 master where the 2 bedrooms are in the wing, and then taking one of the existing bedrooms to make a master bath for the master that's back there. And then there will be 2 bedrooms up on the 3rd floor with a bathroom there, so we will maintain the 6th bedroom for the house. And as I say, that dormer is 7 feet back from the face of both east and west faces of the building. I want to show that that rear elevation. So down at the bottom is the porch and the lower roof section with those 2 smaller bedrooms, and the one on top then is the new kitchen and master bedroom, and then the dormer, the shed dormer up on the north side, with the 2 bedrooms up on the 3rd floor, with the windows above the roof of the L addition. Marion actually found that there was a second L off the back of this house back in, I think it was 18.
The earliest is 1803.
And it shows up on Julian Loring's plans, I think, in 1950.
1945 and 1950.
So it was taken down at some point in that period.
We believe that lower right long window was actually originally a doorway into that L.
Right.
And it had, when it was taken off, that window was put in.
So there was an addition back on that side at some point during its lifetime. And then on the east side of the building, the next door neighbor, which is about 12 feet from the face of this building. So, and there's one of the pictures I think I left in your package that shows the view between the 2 houses, where it's actually very hard to actually see the L from the back, on the back of the house. So the existing east side, right side is down at the bottom, and then we're looking to add 1 window on that side facing the butter's house, which would be the the one right there in the middle, right? And then, that's correct.
Yes.
So you can you can actually see more of the carriage house in behind than you can actually see of the, so as you're walking towards the west down North Street sidewalk, that's the picture that's the widest sort of angle that you can see of what this looks like. So that gives you a little bit of look at the outside. We're planning to, there are 6 fireplaces in the house at the moment. We're planning to, one of them was actually taken out when they put a flue in for the oil burner and the heating system. Our intention is to put that back into use as that'll be a parlor in the house. Take that flue out of there, and we're going to convert to gas on the heating system and use the 2 4-inch vent and intake air, so that we can put that chimney back and that fireplace back into use as the parlor. And basically, the front core of the house is going to stay pretty much as it is. The 2 front rooms, one will be a parlor and one will be a sort of a family room. That whole right side will connect on either side of the fireplace back to the dining area and to the kitchen. The left side will be a sitting area. The back piece on the left side will be a smaller office, den, study, and then, of course, the kitchen in the addition on the back side. In the front, the two main front right and front left will remain as they are. There's some very nice structural pieces that are exposed on the right side have been covered up on the left. It's our intention to expose that master beam across the ceiling of the left bedroom. And we're then installing 2 new bathrooms up on that second floor to service those other 3 bedrooms that are there, and then the 1 bathroom up on the 3rd floor to service the 2 bedrooms on the 3rd floor. So we end up with the same number of bedrooms without changing the footprint. So basically, it's 4 by 17 is the size of the addition, which gets us a kitchen that we can work with an island and an area to have a breakfast area in the kitchen itself. So that gives you an overview of the intention. The entire front of the house is clapboard. Our intention is to repair the wood clapboard. The entire rear of the house is shingle, some of it not in very good shape. Our intention there, because we're actually making some changes there, would be to use a new shingle around the 3 sides of that and not have it look patchwork. All the casings and all the trim, all the rakes on the portico and the front portico, again, reasonably good condition. So that would all be repaired. And using wood, we wanted to talk to you about the possibility of using some different material on the L, the addition. We're going to be putting in, our intention would be to use a dipped Maybeck type of shingle, so that you could have much less curling. If you look at some of the pictures, you can see that those shingles had obviously not been protected, so they are really pretty well curled from the inside out. And then to use asphalt shingles on the roof. The front roof is in reasonably good condition as well, and our intention would be to leave the front roof in place. But the back roofs and the addition, the L roofs and the porch roofs, would all be new asphalt. Front walk and front entrance and everything remain as is. coming off the driveway. You may have seen that there's a beautifully new constructed carriage house garage with a loft over it in behind this, which is going to stay just as is. There's a new service panel that actually feeds the Hersey Street barn out back, which is on a separate piece of property. But our service goes into that west gable end, and that will all basically remain as is, as will the stone walls and the landscaping. You want to flip to the yeah. So that the picture in the left rear actually shows pretty exactly what you're going to see from North Street as you approach going downtown. The new location of the porch on the bottom left, the slightly higher second floor of the addition, and then the corner of the dormer that shows beyond the edge of the grate board going up. And as I said, that's 7 foot back from the face of the roof, so we can maintain that existing roof structure as it is right now. The picture up on the upper left is the juxtaposition to the 223 versus the neighbor's house just beyond, just to the east. And the picture on the right shows how close that house is on the east side to the 223. But the look of the front of that house, basically, with the chimneys and with the portico and with the whole front face is going to remain as is pictured there, pretty much intact.
Can I just have a question for clarification? Yeah. Let's see, Roger, you mentioned that for the existing screen porch, you're going to maintain the look of the porch. Does that mean you're going to rebuild it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, you can see it down here in the lower right.
Mm-hmm.
It's in reasonably good shape. That the glass units are okay. The screen units are not. So we're going to have to remake. But those actually fit into it's a nice setup on either side of the posts where you can actually take, there's a little clip that you can take the storm windows out and put the screen units in.
So, just before we open it up for questions from the audience, we had a question about our jurisdiction on this property because a lot of this is being done to the rear. Talked to Roger a little bit about it earlier today. Andrea and I took a drive out there, and the photos that he's showing from North Street are, I think, a good depiction of what you can currently see there. But if you do turn up Thaxter and you look from just on the other side of the church, yeah, you can see the whole rear of this house. So I do think that the rear, pretty much everything that's being done in the rear, just for our purposes, that we can comment on, and I think that's within our purview. So just so everyone knows, the only part I'm not clear about is on the. It's probably just, it just depends upon the angle, is the east side on the new addition on some of these windows back in here on the rear part of the L. I don't know what you're going to be able to see back in there, but certainly from this you can see that the east side on the main house will be visible. So I think if we can operate under those assumptions, I think that would be appropriate. Okay? Very good. All right. Any questions from the audience about this application? Okay. Open it up. Who would like to start?
Okay, I have some questions.
Sure.
Roger, on this rear elevate, well, so the L, the existing L, it looks like a cast-in-place. It's not fieldstone?
I'm sorry,
The existing rear L is a cast-in-place foundation?
yes.
And do you intend just to do a cold joint and pour a new foundation the additional 4 feet?
Yeah, our hope is that we'd like to use, wherever we can, that the, sort of the existing, I think it's the this section right here,
Yes.
this is cast concrete. It's kind of strange because the entire inside of that wall is stone. It almost looks like somebody came by at some point and put a sort of parged this face, because in the basement, it's all stone interior, fairly straight interior walls, not beveled out. So that looks like it was a parging of at some time.
Okay.
And what we were planning to do is, on the extension, was to have the same look as the back face of this has right now.
So in order to get your 4 feet of additional space, you will have to remove that screened-in porch completely?
Correct.
Okay,
Gonna take
including
it-
the foundation?
Take it apart.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. And your intent is to use some of those Easy Change, I think that's an Easy Change brand?
Yes.
Okay. Some of those the existing glass. And then on the original volume, you talked about the front elevation left and right. Just looking quickly at the plan, is it only that single window on the right-hand side you intend to add?
Yes.
Okay. E16, I guess, on the first floor?
Which one are you looking at, Ben?
I'm on A13, plan view.
Yes, it's the window directly opposite the fireplace end wall
Yes.
on
So
A13.
Yes.
That's, the new one is directly opposite that.
And all the other windows on the first floor, you were talking about repairing?
Yes.
So you're talking about sash cords and weather stripping and?
Correct.
Right, okay.
All the ones that are labeled E
Yes,
would all be renovated, restored.
okay. Then A14, which is the second floor plan, it says relocated existing window?
Yes?
So is that the window you're moving downstairs?
No,
Okay,
we're moving it to the right approximately 2 feet or so that we can actually have a bed area.
oh, I see, okay.
Otherwise, it was impossible where it was to have beds, above where the window was. You'd have to put it right in front of the window, so we thought by moving the window, we could make that much more appropriate in terms of the interior
Okay,
space.
so that second floor window will no longer line up with the first floor window?
That is correct. Now, we could move the first floor window as well to keep them lined up, because that really doesn't have any effect. That's a family room downstairs, which will have a couch rather than a bed in front of it. So that certainly would be an easy change to make.
Let me see.
What are the clapboards like on that side of the house? Were you planning on pulling all those, or some of those old?
The east side is probably the worst. But wherever we have to, would be to put in new clapboard, wood clapboard to match the existing spacing, et cetera, and everything that's put in new would all be primed on all 6 sides, and then replaced to match the existing. The south side is in actually reasonably good shape.
I'm sorry, Ben. I didn't mean to jump
Oh,
in.
no problem. The high efficiency, it's PVC, flue and makeup air.
Right.
Is that gonna go through the roof?
For the roof.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not happy about the ones going,
Out the sidewall?
Sidewall.
Yeah. And the condensers I see on A13 on the first floor plan, is 5 the absolute most you'll have?
yes.
Okay. Maybe fewer.
We're having that
Hopefully,
discussion.
hopefully fewer. Okay.
I mean, we've done, you know, as you know, we've done several with a zone valve and you know, zone dampers.
Yes,
So you have one
right.
unit. This plan doesn't exactly set thatself up well for that situation, but that was one of the first questions that Marion asked me. So we are looking into
Yeah.
to that. I mean, I know anybody who's been in construction knows that the dampers on airflow, not always a great
No.
working element.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay. There's a couple of things. I noticed on sort of that rear elevation, now knowing we can see that from Thaxter, it seems like there's a little bit of an odd condition where this gable sort of overhangs where the dormer is on the side, and just the resolution of that area here seems a little strange. I don't know if you looked at any other options there on that, and whether the width of that dormer got wider. It just seems like how that turns the corner in that roof, that little piece of pitched roof just sort of sneaks around the side of that dormer over here. It just seems a little awkward.
Roger, did you have a reason to step in the dormer that much?
Yeah, trying to maintain that 8x8 red oak.
The
Rafter.
rafters.
I mean, that, you know, the thing's been up almost 300 years, and I can't, that, the purlins and the red oak are all in fantastic shape, and I wanted to you know, change that as minimal as possible. I also felt that being back 7 feet was gonna be much better for the visual on the outside, and that gives us enough room to work, you know, those 2 bedrooms. We have to stay underneath the 50%, and we also, you know, need to, that entire section of the front roof is unusable up to a certain point. So,
And so that's pretty accurate of what you would see from this portion. Which I think is really where that awkwardness of that piece kind of tucking around would really show. So if you don't really see it, then maybe that's not really an issue on that elevation.
I honestly don't, well,
This would be viewed from Thaxter.
Yeah.
no, not what he's talking about is this is on the east side.
Is on the
You can't
east
see that from Thaxter, because the ridge is higher than,
Right.
But when you're coming down Thaxter, you're higher.
yeah, you can't see that from, because
No, go ahead.
the ridge on the, as I said, the ridge is up about 3 foot higher than the existing ridge on that building now. And I think what, you know, it's this piece right here that I think you're,
Yeah.
and that's on the east side. so you
Correct,
can't-
yeah.
So you wouldn't
On the
really
west
see that
side,
from the other-
on the west side, all you're
Yeah.
gonna see is that intersection.
Yeah. But the size of the dormer in relation to the house, when you're coming down Thaxter, you have some voids there of siding in that window pattern. Let me ask a different question. Roger, if you didn't have those old antique 8x8 oak rafters, would this be the design? I mean, wouldn't you really rather have that dormer out so it's a little more normalized, that it's stepped in maybe a foot and a half from the gables?
Oh, you mean bring it out this way?
Well, that's what he's saying. I mean, of course, living in a 300-year-old house myself.
Right, I know. I know.
Up there in our attic, that's, after 56 years, probably have to just take some stuff out. No, I mean, I think those two rooms up there are reasonably good size. I thought that having it step back further was a real plus in terms of the visual. I took some time in the sort of dew drops today to sort of go up and down Thaxter myself, looking back at this, because you know, 3 foot high is not going to change the proportion of what you see now on that L. 3 foot higher. And I don't think that that the gable end of the dormer is also going to be, you know, even from Thaxter, because you're more than 400 feet away when you're looking down at this thing, and at this, obviously, from the front of the church, you've got that huge conifer that's right in front of this whole thing. You can't see any of the back from the front of the church. From the back of the church looking into is where you have the best view, because then the residential properties going up Thaxter Street are all stacked pretty close together. But I'm to answer your question, I thought that spatially inside we got what we needed to have for those rooms, and the further back it was, the better it was from a standpoint of how it looked from any location that you could see from the public way.
I think, in addition to what Ben was saying about that window on the side moving, I think if you move the other one over, I think that would, in my mind, be okay, because I think now that they're aligned, makes sense, and once it's not, it just seems a little awkward to accommodate the bed inside.
That's the way it is on the west too. So I don't see any problem with moving that one on the first floor.
Moving the one on the first floor?
Yeah, to match being directly underneath the one.
One on, to make it symmetric?
Right. Which is actually something I think you had said way back when. My fingers to work. Yeah, so it's this one.
So it's this,
So he's talking about moving that
moving that to be.
12 inches to the right, to be directly underneath.
Directly
right.
underneath that one.
So it keeps the,
Yeah, it keeps that symmetry. Yeah, I don't have any objection to that.
Because I don't think, you know, anybody walking by would, they'll notice that the way it is, that it's not quite right, the way it is. I presented it. But if it was moved 12 inches to the right, both of them wouldn't really make that much difference to.
And the other question I had was in regard to materials. You mentioned shingles on the back, but I didn't quite get, you mentioned a new type of shingle, or is it just a dip?
It's just a dipped
wood
Maybach.
shingle?
It's a dip.
Yeah, as long as it's wood.
Cedar, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's the bleached.
Yes. We put clapboard on the dormer gable ends
Yeah.
to match the main part of the house, but everything on the back of the L would be the Maybach wood cedar dip shingle.
In the back of the main house would be clapboard?
Clapboard up on the dormer.
Yes, everything on the main house. Well, even
No, he's on the
This.
second floor.
Yes,
that would all be clapboard?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
I think that was typical of an L like that that's stuck on and it's clear in the basement. You can see where they cut the stone out to put that on, but it's all stone on the inside, which is, you know, it wasn't a 50s or something addition to it. It was done, certainly, given what Marion found with the plan, done in 1808, or 1805, whichever.
For 1808, yeah.
Okay. Yep.
I have two things, Roger and Marion. Thank you for the introduction. It's a wonderful house. My comments stem from what I read that Monique Lehner wrote when it was being prepared for the to be a district. And one is, you know, in terms of the Georgian style, symmetrical, simplistic, formalistic, and how the house has highlighted through the ages the architectural integrity of the style, which is quite appealing. But two things. One is the whole L going to be re-sided in terms of, so you were going to do a completely new shingle treatment?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, one thing
Most of those shingles are non-usable.
Are they?
They're curled.
They're curled and cupped and would be very impractical to try to reuse them.
Yeah. One question I would then ask is, since it abuts the clapboard on the main house, would you consider clapboards? Because I think it's my understanding that you know, when you have clapboards in such proximity, you might want to have clapboards where shingles were a little bit more distinctive in terms of being apart from being so close to clapboards. So that's one question I would ask. And second is, well, I don't know how else to put it except that I have trouble with the shed dormer not being really congruent with the simplicity of Georgian style. And, you know, I know there are dormers attached to Georgian style homes, but not shed dormers. And I think it's a dominant feature that really detracts from the simplicity of the style. And I would just ask for some consideration about that.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, we thought by using the shingle, we were sort of staying with the style of the L addition to the house.
Yeah.
And there's lots of precedent around town that you know, the main house was clapboard and these sort of add-on L's were shingle. So, but I mean, if this were something that the board felt strongly about, I don't know that we would. We were actually trying to blend into what's there. I guess the second thing is on the shape of that dormer. I guess I felt that the shed was about as simple and conforming as you could get with this, because of all that's going on, especially on that north side facing away from the street. That if we tried to do, you know, some other roof plane up there, even as short as it is, you know, it'd be almost impossible to do anything with any kind of pitched roof over the top of that. And then if you tried to do some sort of Nantucket style dormer where you had a couple of smaller, there's no precedent anywhere on the house exactly for, you know, for something that would have even the front portico is a hip, not you know, not a pitch. So I'm not sure how we might achieve that. I thought this was the simplest way to blend it into this particular structure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that perspective. What about no dormer?
Can't get a room up there.
Well, you can't.
Pardon?
Can't stand up there.
Uh-huh.
You would be too constrained by the pitch of the roof to put anything up there for anyone over 4'8". So
Well, the house really has no sort of master bedroom and bath area in it, and a walk-in closet. There's nothing, there's been very little done to this house inside over the years, which is, in one way, is great,
Yeah,
because we're gonna be able to save all of the nice moldings and the crowns and the one side of the house has that master beam exposed, the other side, they've dropped the ceiling underneath it. But it's there, and we wanna, we wanna restore it to what it looked like before, because the whole perimeter, all the side pieces, all those beams on the sides are all also exposed.
yeah.
So to return that to where it was, but there's no way without putting something up on the third floor to get the 2 additional bedrooms that this house now has to 6, and that's one of the major issues in terms of its value, without adversely affecting its overall look. That was our thought.
And we kept it below the ridge, so from the front, you just see the classic roof line that's there now.
Yeah.
So there's
yeah.
nothing that goes up over that ridge line.
No, I do appreciate that. I'm not the most appreciative person of function, frankly, but, and I was moved by Monique Lehner's celebration of the house in terms of its pristine respect for the Georgian style. And that's what's directing my comments about it.
Well, I think the proposed design is very appropriate to my eye, and I think the frontage, the view to the front is so lovely. I think I have no opinion about clapboard versus shingles on the side. I understand Virginia's affection for the very sparse design of the back, but I can also understand that having that headroom is an important feature of livability, but I find it a very appropriate proposal.
Okay, just a couple questions for me, so I'm clear. The back L, as it is right now, is coming down?
Correct.
Okay, new foundation going in.
No, actually, we're using the existing floor, and we're adding 4 feet, and then,
Widening it?
right.
Yep.
So, but the existing floor system is in good shape, so again, we're trying to, to maintain as much of that's a full basement underneath that section, 'cause you have the bulkhead goes down into that area,
Mhm.
and the new section will be a crawl space, so we don't have to, change the look of that existing stone wall in the basement.
Okay.
The structure on the top is coming down, yes.
Everything above the first floor frame.
So, I'm not sure if that, if the east side elevation, that top dormer component that there's concern about is visible. I'm not sure. If you guys want to go out and take a look at it, we can. If you feel like we need some more information, happy to, set that up and ask the applicant to do it. But you may be just okay with the current design in the dormer.
My question would be from Thaxter Street, so that would be the north elevation. I don't think the east elevation is visible.
Yeah, from the Thaxter
It's not the
side.
dormer.
From the Thaxter side, you'll be able to.
See the dormer.
Yes, that side of the dormer and the rear of the house, you'll be able to see that. That tuck-in piece on the dormer, on the other side, I'm not sure. And if you can see it, it's just gonna be a real small angle of it. It's almost flush with the house.
If you're on the side, oh, sorry.
So, I mean, if you can just look at the pictures too, but, it's up higher, so you might be able to get a glimpse of it. I think the main view is gonna be, you know, in front of the house, obviously, on North Street, and as you make the corner up to Thaxter, you'll be able to see it, especially this time of year.
I think a site visit would be helpful.
Would you like to see anything staked out, or would you like to?
No, I don't think, I don't need anything staked out, no.
Staked out.
Okay, so just to get some clarification on that side mostly,
Yeah,
and, maybe looking up on the third floor to see how the dormer is going to look. Is that kind of the main?
yes, and Roger, I'd be interested in a study on the glazing options for that dormer. You have the 4 units up there. I'm assuming those are awning units, and then those aren't double hungs. Are those all awnings or casements?
No, the two in the center are casement for the, each of those are the wall between the 2 bedrooms, and those are the egress windows.
Yeah, oh, I see. I see, it's the 2 bedrooms, and basically the bedrooms are separated by that center mull there and those 2.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you know if clapboard was ever used on any of the Ls? I'm just going back to Virginia's point. Any photographs or?
On this house,
Yeah.
there's nothing that we can see that would, I mean, we have the entire history that Julian did, so we have piece by piece as this thing, but there's no evidence. Anything we've seen would say that the Ls were
Yep.
shingled, but
Probably less expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does the commission think, just in general, about the use of clapboards on the L and on the rear of the house in order to kind of have a little bit more of a congruence between the front?
Well,
The issue is the proximity to the sides and the front, not simply that it's an L in the back of the house. If it was an L that wasn't abutting the clapboards, I wouldn't have made the comment I made.
So, Virginia, if the whole back of the house were then shingle, the north elevation, the rear of the house, including the original volume, would that, right now, it's all shingle, that whole back,
Right. No, I know it's shingled now, but it's because it's so proximal and abutting the main clapboarded part of the house.
I see. On this side, on the east side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Another consideration is that we do want differentiation. So,
To
that-
show the history?
yeah. I mean, that's part of the Secretary of the Interior standards to
Right.
differentiate. And I don't know if that's the best way to do it, Virginia, but that's a consideration.
On the rear of the house, we can't tell you to, you've got shingles up there right now. We can't tell you to do something else. You can just, it can stay shingle. However, given that that's the original box itself, you may want to consider having that clapboard. And maybe the L is shingled. Would that help out in terms of how you're looking at things?
You want to differentiate the main house from the L? Is that?
Well, that's what Andrea's
Yeah.
talking about that, and that's, our guidelines specifically point us in that direction. I mean, there's certainly examples of homes in Hingham that have Ls that are clapboard, like the main, and I think there's examples of both.
I think the fact that the intent is that they're dipped and the house is painted where the color contrast won't be as strong, at least, as it is now, when the house is painted white and the shingles are left to weather and they turn dark.
You know, I think my comments emanate from custom, rather than maybe custom and congruence rather than what is now. I mean, there's shingles now, so that there's a precedent for shingles, but, and maybe there was never clapboards on that L. It's likely there wasn't. But just in terms of the flow, I think clapboards is the custom when it's that proximal. That's where my comments are emanating from.
Well, I mean, I guess, I mean, from my standpoint, if it would, you know, if it's, this is part of the discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
We followed that, you know, the three main visible faces on this house were all clapboard.
Yeah.
And the rest of it was shingle. So we thought that was a good way of continuing, but it's not, I see visually that shingle separates the L from,
Yeah.
from the main body of what was obviously the original house, was
Right.
just the full colonial. And it's very clear that was always the first piece of it, was that area of the main colonial block.
Yeah.
And then the other was added, as you can see where they went through the existing foundation wall to get to the L.
Yeah, yeah.
In the summer kitchen at one time.
The other influence to my thought was that, you know, the screened and glassed porch is wood, and it would give a continuity, given that it's going to be more massing than, you know, because you're adding 4 feet to each, it would just give more continuity. That was the other thought. So it was custom, continuity, congruence.
We're not adding 4 feet to the screen porch, we're merely moving it 4 feet.
Right.
We're
Got
not
it.
adding
Got it.
any area.
Okay.
That existing 6-panel
Yeah.
porch is sliding over 4 feet, because
To
we're.
accommodate the 4
accommodate-
feet of, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
But there's certainly a visual, when you look at this picture. I don't disagree with you at all.
Right, I'm all right with that.
If that,
that's the will of the commission, I'm all right with that.
Okay. Why don't we continue this next time after we come out to the site and visit on a Saturday morning before the next meeting, if that's okay with you?
When,
Next meeting is on the 14th of March. So we have plenty of,
just want to look at the
sure.
calendar, see.
And just while you're doing that, on the window recommendation, lining up the windows and moving the downstairs window on that side, is the commission okay in that direction if we move both of those windows?
Yeah, I'd like to see symmetry.
Okay, symmetry, okay, so on that
No problem.
No
recommendation.
problem with that. On the 14th?
Any other changes to that dormer that you guys, any study that you'd like to see, or at this point?
We
or-
want to look at it on site.
You're going to look at
Glazing options,
No, it would
Some
simpler,
Saturday.
wider,
Saturday prior
or
to the
none.
14th.
No dormer at all.
prior to the 14th, so.
No
So we
dormer
have
or
plenty of Saturdays.
Some type of
Yes.
simpler kind of,
Yeah.
If I have to be
And
home,
wider.
I'll be home. I have,
and wider?
Actually, you don't need to, we
Yeah.
don't need to get inside the house. And Roger can meet us there if you're, if you need to be away.
okay.
It's okay.
Roger, Ben would like to see maybe a study with a wider dormer, what that might look like in order to, you know, to change the impact on that side.
On the east side corner?
Yeah. And I think maybe when we go out for the site visit, we can just determine what we're gonna be able to see anyways. But
Yeah, I mean, I stood on the sidewalk and on the street, and there's no way you're going to see this thing.
No, I'm more concerned with Thaxter. I
Yeah,
agree
yeah,
with you, the east side. I'd have to see it from Thaxter.
I guess my feeling, Ben, was that the further back,
Right, then it doesn't show on the
Correct.
east side. A dormer.
Or the west
a
side.
A shed dormer showing on the east side, I don't have an issue with that. And I think if it's further away from the ridge of your L, it's gonna be less awkward looking. The expectation would be that a dormer is set in about 18 inches, a shed dormer.
Yeah, right.
So they want us to widen the dormer? Is that it?
And that would expand your glazing options, so that you don't have these 4 units
Right.
tight like that. I understand you need your egress option.
Yes.
Well, I'm happy to look at that. I mean, I thought we were being very sensitive to try to keep it as far back as we could, and still, we're, I think, 47% or whatever. I'm supposed to be the 50. So I got plenty of room to move things around, if that's
Right.
the...
So I have to say, the opinion of the board, my fellow board members may have a different opinion, but if this is visible from Thaxter, then I don't think that dormer works. I think the glazing doesn't work, the size of the dormer doesn't work for the house, if this is visible from Thaxter. If it's not our jurisdiction.
Okay.
It is visible.
Okay, so,
If we have a site visit on Saturday, March the 2nd, then, based on that site visit,
yeah.
March the 2nd, Roger, you may, after discussion,
No, I think, as far as I know, I'm available, so...
okay, good.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be in New Hampshire, I can come home, it's not.
Oh,
a
you don't
deal.
have to, unless you want to, but,
Okay. What time would you like to come?
well, we'll probably be there at 9.
Okay? All right. Good start. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. All right, sorry for the delay. Next up is 608 Main Street. This is for some modifications on one side of the house to remove a French door and make some window adjustments, I think. Welcome. Matt? Yep. Okay. Thanks for coming in. Sorry for making you wait a little bit.
That's okay. So I'm Matt Sherry. My wife and I just purchased 608 Main Street almost 2 weeks ago, and we're thrilled. So we're currently living in the city, and we're going to relocate our family down at the end of the school year. We absolutely love the house, and we bought it from an owner who is a little bit absent and hasn't lived in it in about 2.5 years. We don't have any intent to really change the look and feel of the house. We want to maintain as much as we can. There is some work that we're going to have to do, just some wear and tear. It hasn't been properly maintained for the last 2 years. But one thing that we do want to do is we want to look at and contemplate enclosing that French door that exists off of the kitchen out onto our patio right now, for a couple of reasons. Really, one, the door doesn't currently work, so it needs to be replaced anyways. When you're looking at the side of the house, there's actually 2 French doors in very close proximity to each other, and this set of French doors goes into a mudroom, and we've got young kids, and this French door goes right into the kitchen, so I'd rather route all the traffic through the mudroom to the extent we can anyways. But we're also looking at a reorientation to the kitchen, where I think if we could fill in, enclose where the French doors exist right now, it would work better for the layout on the interior. It's really the French doors that are driving our proposal here. Our windows, that was contemplated really because we thought that it simplified it and looked a little bit cleaner than if we were just going to enclose those French doors and leave the windows as they exist. As they're currently configured, some of the windows are close to each other where they can only get shutters on one side. It would be our intent to space them out appropriately so we could get shutters on all of the windows.
Good. So on page 3, I think Matt's referring to,
Yep.
those are the changes that he'd like to make. Andrew and I did drive by again today, and it is visible from the street, so, feel free to comment on this. That's within our purview. Any questions from the audience? All right, any questions?
I do. The questions I have are really related to whether these are you relocating some windows, or are you replacing the ones that you're moving, right? So you're taking some and just moving it over, or you're taking...
Yeah, I apologize. No, we would be replacing them, and I should have used that terminology, but we'd be replacing them, yes.
So is the condition, do you know what the condition of those windows are, and can they simply be just moved instead of replaced?
The windows on this side could potentially be moved. We would like to absolutely replace this one so that we get a more uniform look.
And so then, these two here are two that you're looking to move
Yes.
or replace.
Yes.
So if you are in your proposal to replace them, it would be the same size, fitting in the same opening.
It would be the same size. We would like to move we'd propose to move this middle one slightly over this way so that we get it a more uniform, and we could potentially get shutters. One thing, if you look at the actual picture, these windows are spaced in a way that there's no middle shutter there.
Yep.
Matt, can you, just on this drawing here, just so everybody can see, can you, these two windows here,
Yep.
can you reuse these and put them in the place that you want them? I understand this one you want to pop out, you want to replace that. This is going to be a new window, correct?
Yep.
So could potentially use these two, make the move that you want to do, reuse them, restore them, whatever you need to do, and just had one new window here. Is that kind of the direction?
We could do that, yes.
And the French doors go.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody kind of,
Yeah, that
Got
makes
that.
a lot of sense now. Yeah.
any questions? Any?
No, that seems like a wonderful option.
I'm assuming the French door was probably recently put in?
Yes.
Is it new? Okay.
I believe it was done in 2007.
Anybody have any problem with that little small window that's kind of just one off? It's all by itself. It was probably jammed in there at one point.
Right.
Okay. And, Matt, you're okay with, putting in a wood, a wood window to match the other ones, like a
Yes.
true divided light
Yes.
window? Okay. To match the existing.
Yeah, we went and
Here's
talked
that
to the...
specs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can make a motion.
Okay. Let's do it.
I'd like to make a motion for a certificate of appropriateness for 608 Main Street. That'd be the north elevation. Well, I'll call out A1, page 3, reconfiguration, removal of French doors immediately behind the original volume, and reusing original windows, moving them as indicated on plan on first floor, replacing 4-light on first floor with a double hung 6/6 to match first floor windows.
Double hung 6/6 wood true divided light.
Yes. Window
Brosco.
window as spec'd in plan, all wood, true divided light.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You
coming in.
did a nice job
Thank
on
you.
the application.
Oh, thank
Easy
you.
to see.
My wife is an interior designer, so she's
Ah,
got it.
there you go.
Hey, welcome to town. Good luck with
Thank
it.
you very much.
All right. Next up, we have 650 Main Street. This is for the construction and demolition of a garage and construction of a new garage in the rear of the property with a room above. Hi. Thank you for coming in. Do you want to walk us through the
Certainly.
project and what you'd like to do? And thank you for the application.
I'm Paulette O'Connell. From OCO Architecture, so I'm here on behalf of the owner, it's Kristin. 650 Main Street is a single-family residence, and it has a detached one-story, one-car garage. And as you know, garages that were built back, in the early part of this century or last century are not the sized for today's vehicles. And so what we really like to do is to remove that one-car garage and put in a two-car tandem garage, so that the look and feel from Main Street will still be sort of a one-car narrow garage, plus the site is very narrow itself. Allow two vehicles to get in there to try to get rid of all the vehicles in the driveway of this narrow lot. Let me get my notes out here. I apologize for 1 second. The idea is to do the tandem garage with a second story sort of dormered above it, just to house sort of a bonus room up above. The new footprint is set slightly forward from the garage, but in the rear of the existing single-family residence. You can see that on the proposed plan. We're going to the ZBA next week, so we're kind of fighting a bunch of different things here on the plot plan. We've got the septic system leaching field, we've got the septic tank, and we have the north property line. So we've tried to sort of take an average of all those and fit the footprint of the new garage in there. The idea will be that it'll look similar to the existing house in terms of materials, and also we are dormering. So we have the same sort of shed dormer coming facing Main Street, but we will have a dormer in that roof line, and then we have a gabled dormer off the rear that isn't visible from Main Street and things. I do have a few extra photos. You have these. I just did some larger images. So this is the view of the existing home as it is today, and sort of the side view of the existing garage. So as you can see, as you're walking by, the existing garage is not quite all that visible as it is today. It would be set closer about 8 feet, and it will be taller. What we've done is tried to align it with the existing ridge of the addition in the rear of this house, so that we're not trying to get any higher than what you would see from Main Street. Currently, yes. I mean, you'd have to be hundreds of miles away to be able to see that addition. And I brought some other examples that both properties, so we're this sort of long, narrow property here, and the circles where the existing garage is. You notice that there's sort of a precedent here that both properties have two-story detached structures on their property, both set further back from the existing single-family homes, but just kind of giving that sort of feel that we'd be doing the same thing right there. And then the materials is we'd be doing 4-inch clapboard on the front of the new garage to match the front of the existing home. And they have 8-inch shingles painted. The whole house is painted on the sides and the rear, and we just continue that. We'd be doing Marvin true to light windows, wood garage door, and a wood front door, but on the sides and the rear, we'd probably be doing something else just because it's not visible from the site or from anywhere on the streetscape. The existing garage, as you can see, it has sort of just a regular garage door, so we'd actually be upgrading, giving it more of a carriage house look to the garage, make it feel more like in the feel of the existing home. And the new garage door would be moved to the back for sort of access to that second tandem garage for, use of lawnmowers, things like that. And then we'd just be matching the same sort of shingles, the roof and whatnot. We did want to put, as you can see in the drawing here, sort of did a drawing and a quick little rendering drawing here. So we were thinking of doing a cupola that would be a little bit higher. As you can see, this line carries straight across here. Just kind of make it feel more like an outbuilding and not, the same structure. Kind of the feeling. And then this is sort of a black and white. Maybe I'm showing you that sort of like a black and white, so you kind of see that it is set back. There's a huge tree on this side, so it does block that view. There's some trees here. So as you're driving up to it, this is sort of what you would be visualizing as you're going down the streetscape. And again, this is sort of codependent on your input and the ZBA's input, which is next week, moving forward. Thank you.
So I think this is going to be visible from Main Street. I think it certainly has when you're up close to it, I took a look at it today, you're kind of a little bit overpowered by the main house. You know, you're looking up so much, but if you go across the street, you can really see kind of the lay of how this is going to look. You're going to see the ridge heights and how the garage is going to fit and impact the neighborhood and the street. So, from different vantage points, I think that drawing you have there, I think, is very helpful. That last one you showed us. So, any questions from the audience that's here? Okay. We'd like to get some thoughts here to start.
I would ask, how do you feel strongly about the cupola? Cupola seems very busy.
I liked it, but I'm not.
Right.
Whatever works.
Virginia, any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. It helps to see the perspective in light of the house. You know, the house is just wonderfully simple, and I understand the garage and maximizing, you know, use of space and so forth. I think the garage is a little bit busy in terms of design related to the house, so that in that sense, the elaborations on the garage dwarf the simplicity of the house, which for an outbuilding, I think is not so cool. And
Technical.
right. And the other element I would add is the vinyl railing. You know, I don't think that's something that, I think it should be a wood railing for a detail.
We
But-
could certainly do that. I was just thinking it wasn't visible, maintenance-free, but.
Oh, if it's not, yeah.
No, that's in the rear. So really, I understand, you know, the thing with the roof. What I was trying to do was keep the roof low as you're viewing it from Main Street.
Yeah.
And then gabling off the back. It was so long that if we had done just a shed, it would have been so tall because of the
Yeah,
length of
yeah.
the structure. So I tried to do the sort of shed there and then dormered out the back. So I understand your thing, but it was a way to kind of keep the scale down from the front, from Main Street itself. And for the most part, that isn't, the other three sides are not visible from the road.
It's just the front, yeah.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, but
The
part of
doors,
it,
I think, are
the
quite
dormer?
elaborate. No, the
Oh.
doors
The doors are.
Oh,
are
okay,
elaborate, very elaborate, I think.
okay.
And you know, one thought about cupola, I mean, I actually like cupolas, but I think, I do think one has to be careful with a cupola in the sense of they can look like caricatures, and a more custom, given the size of the garage, is probably important, particularly in a small setting.
Yep.
That would be just a caveat.
We, I know we have the X's here, on the garage door, which we could just have a simple plain panel.
Yeah.
There's an existing door on the side of the house, which is what she uses for the main door, and it is just a simple, it's essentially that without the X on it, correct? So if we just carried that design through, I'd be fine with that, and the cupola, if we're willing to negotiate.
Well, in full disclosure about cupolas, when I was restoring my barn, I spent a lot of time looking at what was the appropriate cupola for the barn, in that sense. So I'm a little bit preferential about it.
I think, you know, I would agree with the commentary so far. I think this is a pretty modest house, and I think any garage or barn should be similarly modest, and I agree with the cupola is probably a little too much for this. And I think and I know you're gonna lose some headroom up there on that second floor, but if you eliminated that gable that faces the street, the shed dormer gable, I think it really, and simplify the details of the doors, remove the cupola, I think it really starts to create a relationship with the house that's a little more appropriate than I think what is shown to date. I think the other one is more of a question, which I know you've got some septic system issues that you're trying to deal with. Is the intent that you're locating this so as not to need to modify any of the septic system?
Correct.
Or you know you're going to have to anyway?
No, the septic, we're trying to not do anything to it, so we're keeping it further than 10 feet away from the leaching field, and it's currently closer than 10 feet. The existing structure is currently closer to 10 feet from the tank, so we're just hoping if we kept that number and just moved it slightly. So it's all at the jurisdiction, the other parts of the town here, but we weren't trying to do anything. She bought the house, it was all updated, so it's fairly new.
I guess where I was going was that I could sort of see in the elevation that it looks like the grade drops a little bit in the back, because if you were able to push this even a little further back, where it starts to lower, you take advantage of the grade being lower, then the ridge naturally becomes lower than the ridge of the existing house, which I think it needs to be anyway. In this scenario, I mean, it looks like you're pretty close there, at least with the addition on the back. You're certainly taller than the main portion of the house here, but, you know, maybe if we see it out on site or some story poles or something there, we'll actually see it in perspective and see how that actually, it's a tough judgment to make, you know, when you're just looking at elevation, knowing that the grade drops and you're not looking at it straight on, but I think simplification of it to be a little more modest, similar to the existing house, would be a good approach.
So in terms of the dormer, 'cause there's a lot there, and I know the dormer's a piece, so right now we don't have, the height of the second floor is only about 7'6", so it's not extensive as it is. So pulling that down almost negates the second floor.
And going backwards doesn't help.
Going back, we run into the leaching field. So we weren't trying to, 10-foot ceilings, or, we've got the minimal to get the door up. I mean, potentially, I could look at a few tweaks, but I don't know if it's going to come down 2 feet, is what I'm trying to say.
In terms of the height.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
And again, the grades are guesstimates, so it could be a little bit lower. Again, we'll have to figure that out. The septic could be, it may not be exactly where they put it, but again, that's all site conditions I can't determine at this point.
And, I can see you're not realistically going to be able to shave too much height out of this. I guess it's sort of that dormer in the front. If that shed dormer was able to get eliminated, then I think that immediately starts to really simplify this structure, along with some simplified details of doors.
Hey, Mike, what if the gable was facing the street, so you minimize that ridge, that roof, and then have the dormer kind of facing out towards the property a little bit? You have a one dormer type of situation.
Yeah, you might. I mean, the pitch of it could end up being somewhat flat just because of the width versus the height, but it might be something worth looking at.
Ben, any thoughts?
Just a question. So I'm in agreement on the cupola. It's just gonna make the structure too fancy. The head height, when you're on the second floor and I'm standing at the dormer, at those windows facing the front, what kind of a headroom is above?
Above those windows at the
Yeah.
front. I believe those are actually slightly lower. I have my scale.
Oh, yeah, they must be because of the pitch. Yeah, it's a 3 pitch.
Yeah, I think,
Instead of a 2.5? I see. Okay, I'm sorry. It's right here. You show a frieze in one of these on the face, and I don't,
I was going to remove that because
Okay.
it wasn't the same as the other, as the main house.
right, okay, so it is your intent not to have the frieze, because that would make it fancier than the house. But really, we don't want the structure to show up the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's any way to lose that dormer, that would be.
Yeah, the dormer in the front, certainly. The only thing you may consider, or maybe the board would consider, is the dormer where it meets the ridge, if that were lowered where it meets the ridge, and your window choice weren't so modern, more traditional on your window choice in that dormer. Or as the chair mentioned, turning the structure so the gable is facing you.
Yeah.
Similar to what you have now?
Yeah, maybe look at the rear. Yeah, it's just so tight, like it's almost like flat, and then this, so I almost felt like it looked, I understand like it would be less mass, but I feel like it doesn't have as nice of a pitch as that what you'd want to see usually. I mean, we can look at that, but if you kind of look at the rear and take all that off, I don't think there's a whole lot. I don't think it's as appealing, quite honestly. I mean, I understand you're saying,
Right.
like bringing the roof pitch of that dormer or trying to maybe shorten it up a little bit, but it is kind of, giving us a lot more space on the second floor. Sort of like a.
And any other questions?
I'm in agreement on the overhead garage doors, keeping it simple, getting rid of the X. Makes sense. It would come closer to mimicking those, it looks like a double front door on the
Yep.
house. Is that a storm or the actual door?
It's the actual door.
It is?
It's not usable.
Right.
Is the door not open?
It opens, but it's like
Barely.
2 doors forward, 2 doors inside, and it's,
Okay, so you must have a meeting with the Board of Health as well because of your proximity to the tank and field.
Yes.
Okay. And then for zoning, it's because of your setbacks.
Yes.
Okay. I guess the last thing for me would be again, from the front elevation, it looks like you have a barge rafter, you've got a flying rake there. Is that what's on the main house as well, or is it a simpler, I don't think I have a picture of the house gable.
Yeah, they, yeah, we could shorten that up. It's always sort of the guess, when you have the 2 different roofs coming in.
Opposing, yes,
You
you
know,
need-
so one sticks out if you don't have as much of a barge
Right.
rafter. So I think I was just kind of aligning it for simplicity, but
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. We could certainly make that like the 2 inches, like the main home.
I think taking cues from the house, let the house do the talking.
Yep.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just echo what some of the other board members said. Minimize the competition between the garage and the house as best you can, through height. You know, whatever you can do there, I think would help us out a lot. I think simple is better. Garage doors, I'm in agreement with. You know, dormer, I think, you know, might, if you can remove that dormer, that might help out a lot in the front. I'm also concerned about the proximity, and this is more of a zoning question, the 6 foot off of the property line versus your neighbor. So I think things start to get a little bit tight on the with your neighbor to the left as you're looking at the house. So
They have a structure
Yeah.
kind of equally as
yeah,
close.
I know. So it's gonna just,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna amplify things a little bit. So, but, you know, I like the, you know, the garage that you have there now is very simple. It's just very straightforward. I know it's too small. It's just basically a shed. You know, maybe a riding mower can get in there. You know, I get that. But, you know, just, you know, taking the cues off of that if you can, and have something subservient to the main house, I think is the direction we'd point you in. You guys want to go out and take a look at this? See what's there, look at the grade, look at the other, you know, the neighborhood.
Yep.
You may want to, you know, go through some of the other boards first. I don't know what your timing is.
We're going next week to ZBA, so we'll have some answers at least in terms of, and Board of Health. I've spoken with them on the phone.
Okay.
But I certainly should go in and look at, you know, it sort of said like 10 feet's a thing, or whatever minimum distance you have, which is kind of what I've tried to keep it at.
Okay.
So we're already closer than 10 feet, so we kept that number and just sort of spun it to a different direction.
Right.
Again, they have to sign off on it, so my
Yeah.
phone conversation may not be legit, but you know, that was sort of where I came from for those numbers, and why it was situated in that spot. And I understand what you're saying in terms of simplicity.
Yeah.
The one issue about the dormer is that it's giving us a whole room on the second floor that we will lose. And, you know, for, you know, the property, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not one of these massive
Right.
homes that you see on the South Shore. It's a pretty modest home, and we're just trying to add a little bit more
I get you.
space on the lot. And by losing that dormer, we're gonna lose a lot of the space.
And there's
That we'd
really
be
no way to
doing.
make a gable end design, the gable end facing the street. Seems like that could be a nice,
I was just wondering whether that might help you with your setbacks, because you would have the gable end to the street, and I don't know whether it would work with the driveway, because you'd have to be coming into your garage like that.
does create sort of a barn feel.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Or you can just carry, I mean, in the rear, like we have that on the rear, you're just saying
Right.
carry that all the way
Yeah,
through.
flip it around.
Is-
I'm just trying to think of ways to,
Yeah.
to make, to
I just
create
thought
the
that was
space that the-
busier.
That the,
I don't think
I-
you mean,
Yeah.
I don't think, you don't mean just turning it around so the
No,
rear
I-
is
I
the
mean,
front.
I'm just thinking-
You're talking
just to get some volume for them to work
sideways.
with.
So
Yeah.
we've.
Oh, I don't, like
couldn't,
this.
Because you'd have to drive over the septic. If you were gonna come in, you're saying like drive in and then come around to enter the garage?
That-
No, I wasn't.
That wasn't what he
suggesting
was
that.
saying.
I was
I think that
thinking
was
the
what you
gable
were
end,
saying.
just facing the street as a way to have some cubic feet of living space to make up for losing the dormer.
So I was just suggesting with Mike earlier on, and I think this is what you're talking about, is maybe you can do a study, and
Yep.
maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Gable facing the street, you know, window above for your room above, garage door below. You know, you've got enough room, I think, for a man door to the side, you know, like you have here. And then maybe the dormer goes off, you know, into the yard. You could do that. Maybe a single dormer.
Right,
to
yeah.
you know, keep your headroom, and if you just have, you know, we're all just kind of looking at something that doesn't overpower the house, so maybe that that single ridge going back towards the property, you only see that, and it's not, it's,
The visual impact from the front would be much less.
again, I'm not an architect, and I can't tell how the pitches are gonna work, but, maybe it will be too flat, and.
Well, I mean, essentially, it's what you see on the rear.
Yeah,
So, I mean, this is like, it's got to be a rubber roof because it's so shallow. So I didn't want to see that on the front.
yeah, so,
So I was hiding it with the other roof, essentially, because this is so,
yeah, you need something with a little bit of pitch to it, I think, right?
yeah, so then we'd be higher than the ridge of the house.
I
So,
mean, I think what we're saying is that if it were just the gable, but not the sheds in the front portion, so what you're seeing in the front is just the gable without the sheds.
So you would have no dormer on the
well, you
sides.
see the
though.
sheds at some
You
point.
could put the dormer on the dormer would be facing the yard, perhaps. Is that what you said?
Yeah. You have one dormer on the
Yeah, or
yard.
further back, right? Because, I mean, it looks pretty flat now, but in reality, it would be further back, so. I mean, I think the suggestion here is
I
Take a
mean,
look at
I
some
understand what you're saying. In my opinion, which I'm not on the board, so don't, I'm clearly deferring to you, but I thought that wasn't a great proportion for a gable end. It's there because the height, I mean, it's very low. I mean, even the corners here are under that 7'6". So it's really low, and the ridge is at the same ridge as the front, which is the height of the house. So there's no way to change the proportion of that.
Could you,
I understand what you're saying, we'd lose the mass of this, but I was trying to hide all of that, quite honestly, because I thought it didn't look good.
could you have a bump out over here in the rear
We could have something on that side.
to give you some more volume? And it's something we wouldn't really see from the street. How far do you know, without impacting your septic tank or the distribution component there? You know, maybe that's an option to give you a little bit more volume. You know, you could do a gable here and then a gable off the side.
Yep.
Maybe. Something like that. I don't know how much of a view you have from this patio and how much you want to look back towards the back of the yard. You know, that would impact it a little bit, but you could create, you know, a small courtyard back there. But, yeah, I mean, take a look at some of that. But we can get a date on the calendar for, to come out and visit, you know, the site, and you'll probably have some more information next week for us, and, you know, if you want to change that date, we can do that, or, you know, if you want to have some drawings for us when we come out and what you're thinking about, that, you know, we won't really be able to comment out there, but you could tell us kind of what you're thinking.
Yep.
The next meeting is on the 14th of March. So we just scheduled another site visit on March the 2nd. Would that be workable for you?
The second I'm here, the 14th I'm away.
All right, the 2nd you are here? Okay. So that would be, we'd be there about 9:30. We don't have to get in the house. So, don't have to worry about that. I always say that.
How's that sound?
That's fine. What are you looking, other than just walking the site with us and talking, are you looking for sketches? I'm just want to be prepared, that's all.
You don't
Yeah.
have to have all the sketches.
Okay.
But for the next meeting, you know, 10 days ahead of the next meeting would
Yep.
be great, so we can just all have a look at them. That would be helpful. And, you know, maybe if there's a couple different options that you'd like us to consider based on what we've said, you can include like option A, option B, maybe there's even a third option that you're considering, so we can kind of narrow
Yep.
it down without, you know, doing all the design right here, because that's not.
No, no,
We're
yeah.
just kind of in review mode, so. And I think what we'll do when we come out is, if you wanna just kind of stake out, just the four corners of what.
What we think it
what you
is.
wanna have. Do you guys want to see a story pole up there at this point?
No, I'm okay with the four corners.
Four corners
That
are
would be
fine.
helpful.
Okay. And it's also
Again,
helpful
that'll
us-
be contingent on what happens next week.
Yeah, yeah, and we can take a look at the neighborhood, and I'm sure that some people want to walk across the street and just kind of see
Yeah.
what it looks like from the other side of Main Street.
I mean, quite honestly,
Yeah,
this structure next to it dwarfs everything going on.
that's also important. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
a big
mean-
barn out there, so it's, so that's part of our review too. So we should all see that, and
Yeah.
it looks like, there's like living space up there. Is that, I mean, it's big. Yeah.
Higher than that.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
it's a big structure. It's a larger house too.
No, it is. I'm just, in terms of the streetscape, whatever we're building is gonna look smaller than anything on either side or anything. Not that we want to dwarf the house.
Part of
It's-
a site
Yeah,
visit to,
Yeah,
for
that
us
would-
to
Yes.
absorb.
Certainly that would help.
yeah.
But let Andrea know how the zoning goes,
Yeah, give me a call, Paula.
Okay.
and let her know how that 6 foot goes from the
Yep.
from the lot line, if you need to move anything, or if they're okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, to try to build anything, it's just tight, so it's a very, it's an unbuildable lot. Like, if you were to do the setbacks, I think you got like 9 feet, 6 the whole way, so, whatever, we'll see what we can get.
I mean, you know the history of this. It's a post office, right?
Yes,
Was that a post office?
There's a lot of history in that building.
So I'm not touching it.
yeah, I mean, there is like a, sort of an odd dormer off the back of that too,
Yes,
so we
yes,
were
it is.
kind of mimicking the straight with the dormer off the back, similar to there, rather than just doing the straight gable all the way across. But I understand what you're saying. I just think
Yeah.
the gable is so shallow. I think that's probably why you have that unusual gable there, because trying to minimize the height of that. So once we try to do anything symmetric, it really
Yeah,
finding so many constraints on the site. So
I got you.
I'd still like to show another with the gable, with the,
Okay.
similar to what we've got here, maybe with some changes, just
Okay.
because
Sure.
in my heart of hearts, I feel that's the right way to go, but I will certainly show you another option
Yeah, give us
that you've
a couple-
asked, but I just,
Give us a couple things to look at.
yeah, I just
And-
feel like, I've been fighting these roof lines and angles
Yep.
through design and kind of know what the limitations are, so. But, can go
Good.
from there. All right.
Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
So if Kristin's not here on the 14th,
We're gonna be,
would
here.
be-
We're going on the
so
second.
she's not here on for the
Oh,
next
for the next
meeting.
meeting.
Oh, on the 14th. That's okay. It's all right.
If
'Cause
she
you
does
probably
want to
don't-
be here, when's the
The
following
one
one?
after that is April. I think it's probably,
Around April 14th.
Sherry
think
is
it's the
brilliant.
11th.
It's the 11th
April
of
11th.
April.
I just wanted to know. Okay, thanks.
Good.
All right.
All right. Last on the agenda is an informal discussion on 361 Main Street. And, oh, good.
Yay.
Thank you for sticking around. So, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I'm Wendy. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
Wendy.
Kirk.
Okay.
Yes.
Wendy would, we have some paperwork that was distributed to us, and Andrea also put some maps and other things together so we could help understand what you
Do you
would
have any
like.
photographs?
Oh, we've got photographs
Okay,
too.
okay.
Of the existing house.
We have the ones that were, I
Okay.
put the ones that John had sent.
Great, thank you.
But why don't you walk us through what you'd like to do?
Okay.
And I think it's great that you're in here informally, because we can give you hopefully some direction on
Great.
what you'd like to.
Okay. So I just want to give you a little background. We bought the house almost 10 years ago. Moved from another neighborhood in Hingham. My husband grew up in Hingham in an antique house on Main Street. He's been here for 40 years. So certainly the historic is not anything new to him or to us. We wanted to live in the house with the property for a while before we started to make any changes. Just wanted to get to know how we used it and, you know, just what happens around us and things like that. When we bought the house, we bought it from a woman who was lovely, but she was elderly. She hadn't been living in the house, and it was too much for her to care for. So there are parts of the house that are were and are in disrepair. The original part of the house that was built in the 1830s, we have done a lot of restoration work on it. We've restored the shutters, we've restored the windows, we've restored part of the garage, and we have no plans to touch any of that. We want to keep it just as is with the old staircases and everything outside and inside. What we're thinking is a few different things. So there was a first addition off the back of the house, which I'm not exactly sure when it was put on. I heard early 1900s, then I heard 1950. That sits on a crawl space. It's a 2-story addition with a kitchen underneath, 2 bathrooms, and a bedroom upstairs, a small bedroom. Used to be the servants' quarters. Now it's just part of the regular house. And then the other part of the back part of the house was the porch, which you see with the windows on the side, that was put on probably about 25 years ago, and that sits on a slab. So all but the original part of the house is on different foundations in different types of conditions. The entire structure, including windows and everything, is in disrepair. So we've been living with it, but we're ready to, you know, make some changes and make it functional for our family. So what we want to do is rebuild the back part of the house, taking it off and digging a foundation, kind of squaring it off a little bit more. So it will kind of replace what's there in a way. We would like to either move or remove the current garage, and would love to hear your thoughts on that. The property is certainly big enough to handle moving it. We would like to put on a new 2-car garage that would be attached only by a 1-story breezeway, and in doing so move the driveway from one side of the property to the other. A lot of the background behind the driveway, and again, we have to think we're living in 2019 and not when it was originally put in, is it's dangerous. It's not a safe entrance onto Main Street. I'd invite any of you to come sit in my driveway and try to get out. There's there's a curve that comes around.
They go like 40 around.
They go really fast, and if you notice, 2 doors down has those hedges, and so you really can't see.
No, you got your best view in the winter. In the summer, I don't know how you do it.
Exactly. So it's tricky. So that's a safety thing. I have 5 children that range from.
What do you do?
I just look both ways really quickly several times, but it makes me nervous I was going to say I have 5 children, ages 15 down to 5, and thinking about them starting to drive and pull that driveway is really nerve-wracking to me. And I do think that when that driveway was put in, that we didn't have the traffic and the speed that we have today. So I think, the property is so big and I think that side of the house is really more beautiful, and the approach when you're coming on that side where we want to move the driveway, so to really enhance the property from that side and give us a little bit more privacy on the other side. What's not on there?
Are you talking about moving the driveway?
To the other side of the house. Yeah. The driveway now is up close to, I have a copy too. It's up close to the house, which creates problems with weather conditions and things like that. But the primary concern is safety coming in and out of the driveway. The garage that we have now is, similar to the previous people, is not, big enough, large enough to put a car in. What's not addressed on this is, on the plans that you have, is we are interested in putting on an accessory dwelling unit. That was the bylaw that was passed last April. My parents are in an aging category, and they're alone in New York right now, and they would love to be able to come live with us. And the garage serves a couple purposes. It serves the purpose of them being able to park in a place that's safe, in the weather, and also kind of give a buffer between us and them for privacy. It's not on there because when we met with Jonathan and kind of talked about what we wanted, he said the ideal place to put it would be over the garage. And our concerns about that were the stairs, Yeah. So, it would probably be tucked in the back, loop around the back, behind what we've proposed as a 2-car garage. Because, my parents won't always need it, and when they don't need it, maybe my children will need it, and above the garage ADU would be fine for them, but not for, parents or people who might have difficulty with the stairs. So anyway, I know that was a lot of information, but we've taken 10 years to think about it, and we're kind of, ready to start moving forward, and just wanted to come in and get some thoughts so that before Jonathan goes and draws up plans that we then have to rework. Just hear everybody's thoughts or answer any questions. I'm happy to answer questions.
I'd like to start.
I could.
Go for it.
You asked about removing the garage and how it would feel. For us, I believe we're going to be interested in its age, and that would be
Okay.
a site visit. So
Okay.
it may be worthy. I don't know what the rules are. Are we allowed to make a site visit even though this is informal?
Well, let's see what the
Okay.
feedback
All right.
is and how
Okay.
Wendy feels about the feedback, and then maybe, usually we just do that when we have a formal application.
Okay.
It'd be nice if we could.
The existing L, or addition, that's on a crawl space. Is it a fieldstone foundation? Is it
I think
poured concrete?
so. It's not poured concrete, I don't believe. I
Okay.
think it's fieldstone and then a slab. So it's
Okay.
on 2 different things.
Right, the porch is on a slab.
Yeah.
So that's something we'd want to look at. Just looking at this plot plan that you've shown us, the L, now it's unfair to look at just this. Obviously, a design has to be done, but the L looks rather large in comparison to the house. We can't have any addition show up the house. We want that main body of the house. And Jonathan knows these things.
Yeah.
Attached garage. So, they've been approved, but generally we like to see the sight lines,
Okay.
to be able to see through the property and have it a separate structure. So that's something to consider, having the garage a separate structure from the main body of the house. Something to think about when you're working with Jonathan.
Okay, so our problem with that is that the accessory dwelling unit has to be attached to the main house. So it can be attached
It does.
to, so therefore, if it's a detached garage, then we can't attach the ADU to that.
But here's the beauty.
Yeah.
This is a large property. You have a lot of options available to you. I know you've got a 100-foot setback.
Yeah.
You're within the wetlands buffer.
Yep.
I think Jonathan could get you the ADU that you look for, the 750 square feet, and still can have a detached garage and have it all look in concert, like it actually belongs.
With the ADU being attached to the main house?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm fairly certain that's a rule. It's got to be attached.
It does have to be
Yes.
attached to the main house or be attached to a garage by a heated breezeway, I believe.
But that would get you first floor living as well if you're not above the garage.
Yeah,
then-
it just wouldn't get access from a garage to the ADU.
Right.
It would have to be outdoor movement, right? Yeah, okay.
I think I agree with all of Ben's points there, particularly with the massing of the L onto the back and the demolition or removal of the existing garage. And I think, and as well as the separation of the garage from the house, I mean, you've got such a big piece of property, and it's almost a luxury. A lot of times we're sort of shoehorning these structures into such narrow lots to be able to take advantage of the property and separate that from the house. And you know, I know John's pretty creative and could probably come up with some solutions here that may meet all of the requirements.
Okay.
I completely understand what you want to do with this driveway. I get that. And when I originally took a look at this, I was thinking, wow, why don't you just, you know, if you have the, you know, you don't have a driveway cutting through the middle of your yard, but
Right.
then I saw the pull out there, and it's a real safety issue. So I get that. You know, maybe you can even pull up the left side of the driveway of the lot, you know, and you could have a barn or a pretty prominent structure towards the rear that you can look out at from your house. You know, a beautiful barn or garage that could work here for this property. You got so much depth here.
Right.
So that's an option too, and you can have it detached. And we did something like that down on Main Street, and you're welcome to take a look at that. But it works really well, with a big lot like this. And I would just echo what they've said with having the L off the back. I think an L would work well with this house, and make sure the ridges and the L is subservient to the main house, so it's not too dominant. And I think you could you might be able to just step this down, like the L that you want to connect to the when you connect it to the main house, you have that ridge running back that's just a little bit lower than the main house. And then for your, is it your parents?
Yeah.
So then you can drop it down again, maybe Jonathan can drop it down again for a first floor in the rear. So it's it's just kind of a how we'd see these homes typically built over the years, where they're just kind of
right. Yep.
stepping down, and you have your first floor off the back, and then they would have they could have an area there where they could park maybe towards the back if you want to keep it separate from the house, or if they want to have a car that's close to that area to get in and out. And then maybe you have your garage towards the back or something.
Okay.
A lot of different options here. I mean, you're really fortunate you got this.
We are.
To have this big area to work with.
Yeah. So I know, I took a ride around this historic district because I was just curious about the garages, and I know there's several that have attached garages that are even attaching to, there's one on Middle Street that just tore down their garage, put up a new garage, and are attaching it to the house. And I know,
that's right.
Mount Falconeri did his on School Street.
Yes.
Took a very small house, made it a much bigger house with an attached garage.
New construction.
Yeah. But in the same historic district.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just, and I was just curious. I hear the feedback about, I know it's, there's, a dozen examples in this historic district alone of attached garages that have been put up over the last 10 or 15 years.
So I would just say that you don't want to be creating too much mass here. If you're joining everything together, you're creating a long and structure that's got, and it's hard to see just from this aerial view down, but you're adding quite a bit of mass here in size of the structure.
I don't think, and I hear what you're saying, I don't feel, because we talked to Jonathan about this, I don't think that he felt that he was adding all that much because where you see the new two-story addition, that's replacing a current two-story. The one-story addition, which is kind of more like a mudroom breezeway between what would be the attached garage, is one story, and then the garage would be, you know, one and a half stories. So, you know, again, I look back at Matt Falconery's house, and it's a very similar, you know, his original house was small. He went back, he went to the side and put on the attached garage. So it seems like similar, you know, in scale. And I was kind of modeling after some of those homes that have.
You know, I hear you. I would say the main difference is you've got when was this built?
1833.
Yeah, you've got an 1833 versus a 2018 house, you know, that's new construction.
Wait, so you're saying his is new construction?
Are you talking about the one on School Street?
School Street,
Yeah.
66 School Street. And that's in the historic district?
Correct.
And it was taken down completely and built from
Yes.
scratch? Okay, and that was allowed?
Yes.
Would I be allowed to do that?
Take down your whole house?
Yeah.
No.
Why? Well, I just don't understand why.
He had a 1950s ranch.
Okay.
That he wanted to put a second floor on. And if this is what you're talking
Yeah.
about. And
I don't know that it was a one-story ranch in the 50s.
So we could talk about this offline, but basically, he wanted to put a second floor on. The second floor wouldn't support it. It was about 1,000 square feet, the original home. The commission viewed that it was, you know, it was debated a lot within the commission, and I think there was a certain group that felt like it wasn't historic, and some felt it was. There was also the opinion that, you know, did it really fit in with that School Street, you know, district where it was in that neighborhood, and that was kind of debated too. So I think the main difference here is, you know, you've got and I think you said it, that you put a lot into this for, you know, restoration purposes into this home. You've taken really good care of it. You've stored the windows. You've done a lot of work. So I think with an 1830s, there's a little bit of a difference there between that and a 1940s or 50s kind of ranch.
Well, the other thing too, Wendy, is that every application that comes before us look at a lot of things. I know the garage you're just speaking about on Middle Street.
Yep.
You know what their lot is like. It's much smaller than yours. They also, they constructed a one-car garage, and I believe they put a mudroom next to it.
On Middle Street, yeah.
Yep.
On Middle Street.
Yep.
So every project has to be looked at within the context of what's there and the density that's already there and the size of the lot.
Okay.
And therefore precedence doesn't apply.
Precedence does not apply.
I mean, you've got so much flexibility here that most other people in town don't have. And so on Middle Street, there was you know, to give you a little bit of background, we looked at that lot, very narrow. You know, they wanted to keep as much of the backyard as possible intact, and just wanted a one-car garage. And the only place it would really fit was, you know, attached to the house, very close. So they're all every application's different. Every house is different. The neighborhoods are different. The districts are different. So there's just a lot of. It's not cookie cutter.
Okay.
You know.
There's septic and topography challenges that are different for every lot.
So your suggestions, you feel that this is too big?
Now, the footprint of the L that you have
Yeah.
is too large for the house, yes, the footprint.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what Jonathan's intent is. Maybe some of it's two-story, and maybe some of it's single-story. It does say here, new two-story addition.
Yep, and that's to replace the current two-story addition.
Which is narrower than what you have
Oh,
here.
slightly narrower.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's kind of jigs.
The projections are
around.
the same, but its width is larger.
Slightly, and slightly smaller in one place, right?
But that's first floor only, that one bump out.
Yes, yes.
So he may have that in mind.
Okay,
Where he's gonna do a series of first and second floors, so he's really reduced the mass. Again, I said it's unfair for us to look at this footprint. It's unfair to you,
okay,
because it just says two-story,
Right.
and that block is gonna be
Right.
too large for that
right,
original
okay.
volume.
Do you have other suggestions? I mean, I just, as we move forward.
You guys, anything else? Any other-
I mean, well, without suffering an enormous expense, consider options.
Yeah,
It's nice for us to see options,
okay,
so we can better understand
okay.
what you need, right?
Mm-hmm,
And we can see various designs, and maybe they're minor differences in the
Okay.
designs.
and if we were to put on a new two-car garage, you would prefer for it not to be there? Yes?
Detached, is that what you mean?
Well, I would prefer for it to
In
be
that,
attached.
in that
but-
exact location is what you're asking?
Right,
Well, I think what Hans has mentioned would be nice, seeing this garage more, it's to the left, if you look at the plot plan,
mm-hmm,
more to the left in its own separate structure. You've got a nice wide open space there. And then that would give you some room for your ADU off the back of your L.
Is there any, and this is not the appropriate audience to ask, but is there any way of getting an exception to the ADU to not have it have to be attached to the main house? Like, if we can't have a garage attached to the house, because ideally we'd like the ADU attached to the garage, it makes the most sense. But if we can't have the garage attached to the house, then we can't have the ADU attached to the garage. Do you see what I'm saying? Where,
ADUs are so new, in fact, it has to go to the state, and the state only approved it in October.
okay,
So these were approved by the town meeting in
yeah,
April.
yeah,
So they're all very new. I can't say.
okay.
Wendy, have you spoken with Emily Wentworth yet?
I've about the ADUs. I
Yeah.
have spoken with. I don't believe it was her. I believe it was somebody else who was available.
Either the building commissioner
Mm-hmm.
or Emily Wentworth would be
Okay.
very knowledgeable and
Okay.
would be able to help you and answer your questions
Yeah,
precisely.
they have an ADU cheat sheet, which might be helpful.
Okay.
It gives you some specifics,
Yeah, because it's hard to,
you know.
unless you know the facts, or it's hard to know what your options are.
You know, and also, maybe we can brainstorm a little bit and come up with some projects that we've worked on in the past.
Yeah.
To give you some, a little bit more guidance, and Jonathan can take a look at those.
Right.
And, that have had, additions put off the rear and, with minimizing the mass, but still
Right.
getting what you want.
Right. Right.
And even with some, detached garages and how they've looked on the property. There's examples around town, and I can, we can go through some of that with you maybe, and Andrea can point you to some of that. So.
Are you keeping the septic system?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a wonderful system. We want to keep it.
Where is that?
Okay.
That's right in the
It's
front?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a 6-bedroom, so, the house currently has 6 bedrooms, but one of the bedrooms is a walk-through. It's kind of like the middle of all the other bedrooms.
Mhm.
It's considered a bedroom, but it's not usable as a bedroom. And, we feel like there's value in that, and we purchased that value, so we want to make sure that we have 6 usable bedrooms.
Sure.
And it's hard to use them in the space that we have right now.
Yeah, totally, you can, reconfigure the house and add on so you can maintain that. I hear you.
Okay,
I would encourage you to maintain that.
yeah. But this is too big. This is, I lose
appears to be.
scale. I lose scale, and that's where, you know, when we were meeting with Jonathan the first time, he said, oh, no, you have plenty of space here, you have plenty of space. I just can't really visualize it. It's not my, you know, expertise. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess there's technically 5 bedrooms in that original part of the house in, you know, 1,000 square feet. So 5 bedrooms in 1,000 square feet, you can imagine, you know, the bedrooms we're working with.
So one thing you can do when you do have some drawings for us is you can have your original footprint.
Yep.
And then what you plan on building.
Yep.
Just overlay it on top of it.
Yep.
So we see you're actually adding on, how you're expanding the footprint. So that will help your case where, look, this is what's there already. We're only putting this much more on.
Right, okay.
I know you're gonna be doing some demo work here, but just showing that it's not that much of a change.
And whether we can demo the garage depends on its age.
Yeah, I mean, it's, do you know roughly how old it is?
I don't.
And these additions were probably put on, you said 25 years ago on this first floor,
The porch area,
Yeah.
yeah. And the other part of the back, I'm not sure about.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, we'll have to go out and take a look, but
Okay.
we have approved, demolitions of, L's to the rears.
Okay.
Rear of properties
Okay.
before. I mean, that's something we have
Okay.
done, so, especially if it was something that was put on, it wasn't well constructed and
Yeah.
done recently.
Yeah.
And another thing is that, if, we just have to look at what's visible from the street and what's not.
Yep,
So if it's not visible, we don't have jurisdiction over it.
okay. My all-time favorite is the one on Pleasant Street that has the large indoor lap pool.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
You like that?
Oh, yeah, because it has an attached garage and it has an indoor lap pool that is very expansive and visible from the street. It's my favorite. So,
Oh, okay, Wendy,
Yes.
on the plot plan,
The site massing and area study.
Okay.
it just lists off some of the square footage there.
Uh-huh.
So it says existing rear construction to be removed, 719, and then all new rear house construction, including 1- and 2-story additions, porch and 2-car garage, 1346.
oh, are you looking on the left-hand side?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, I was looking at, okay, sorry.
There's a 719 number there,
Yep,
which
to
is
be-
going to be removed.
Yep,
And then adding 1346.
so that includes the space above the garage,
Right. Right,
the 1346.
right.
And-
And the garage itself, I would assume the whole footprint.
So the 1346 would not include the garage itself, but just what's above it, correct? Because the garage is not finished space?
He says 2-car garage.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's narrowing it down to finished and unfinished. It doesn't
Okay.
appear that way, but
But it seems like if we're removing 719 and only adding 1346, that doesn't really correspond with the drawing, right? I mean, it looks like, it appears that it's a lot more, I believe.
mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have any other questions, Wendy?
No, I think, we need to speak with Jonathan again, and I was trying to avoid having to draw up plans and then
Sure.
start from scratch, but it seems like we might end up doing that anyway. Just because I know it's hard for you guys to visualize without, the,
Sketches?
yeah.
as opposed to full-blown
Yeah,
plans.
right, as opposed to full-blown plans.
A sketch, sketches, as opposed to him.
A sketch of an elevation or elevations.
Yeah.
You know, we don't necessarily need to see interior layout.
Okay. Okay. Great, thank you. I don't want to keep anybody any longer.
No, thanks for
Oh,
bringing
no,
it.
that's great, Wendy. That's
Thank
fine.
you. I appreciate
So-
it.
If you have questions or, just give me a call.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so can we look at the minutes?
Let's take a look at the minutes.
Sherry's minutes
Three sets of minutes from
From a while back.
November 15th, December 13th, and January 10th. That will catch us up.
That catches us up.
Yeah.
Any changes? I think you just gave us the 10th.
Tonight.
You guys want to take some time and read through the 10th?
I read it. I was early to class.
Yeah, I know, me too, Ben. You overachiever.
Virginia.
Yeah, duly noted.
So is there a set of minutes from the 10th?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was absent on the 10th. You can have my set if you don't have them.
One, I already read it.
Do you know what this year is in terms of the Chinese New Year?
Year of the pig.
It is the Year of the Pig. Yes.
What does that mean?
That's for the next meeting.
That's for our next meeting.
It's just a little, it's just a little tidbit.
No.
There are lots of fun facts and
That wouldn't be an issue if you,
but
used a smartphone.
I wouldn't get any fun facts.
Online.
Those look all right.
So here's another fun fact.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No, that's more important.
November
I was just killing
15th.
time.
November 15th. I think it's grammatical. 1007 Main Street. He stated it was challenging, this is the second or third sentence, he stated it was challenging to break up the ridge heights on the new building, but he feels the plans do that. Yes, never mind. Now that I said it out loud, it's fine.
Okay, that was December?
Okay. No, it's just,
November
I
15th.
see what you're saying, maybe it's just worded not so great.
Here's my favorite fun fact.
More fun facts for the viewers at home.
Yep, exactly. Or you can just cut these out. Did you know that on
He's not gonna put them up.
Tuesday, the 15th of January, construction on the Pentagon was completed in 1943?
1943.
Yeah,
What should we do?
that's just a fun fact. Oh, now this is my favorite, my personal favorite, being from the Motor City. Motown Records is formed in Detroit in 1959, and that was on Saturday, and that was on the 12th of January. I can sing you every Motown song that was ever written.
All right, before Andrea does that, I'm going to make a motion. All right, you guys ready for a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve minutes for November 15, 2018, December 13, 2018, and January 10, 2019.
So
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank
Opposed?
you. Thank you,
Thank you very
Sherry.
much. I'd like to conclude the Historic Districts Commission meeting for this evening. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.